Hello, how are you? Our heart can give signs that it's getting weaker before a serious problem sets in. The problem is that some of these signs are more subtle and many people don't even notice them. It's very important to pay attention to the signs and symptoms our body gives us, especially when we're talking about such a vital organ as our heart. I've put together here 10 of the most important signs for you to watch out for, so stay until the end. You won't want to miss this. Before we start, I want to ask you if you've ever had any heart problems or if anyone in your family has had an issue, your family history. Do you actively worry about that? Do you change anything in your diet or lifestyle to protect your heart? How does that work for you? Write it for me down here in the comments. Remember to like the video. That's important not just for this video here, but it also shows YouTube that you support my whole channel, and that's super important to me. So let's get started, talking about these 10 signs and symptoms that our body gives us when our heart isn't working very well. Of course, the first one for sure is tiredness and fatigue, because when the heart is losing strength, when it can't work very well, what happens? It pumps less blood, and because of that, we have less oxygen and fewer nutrients reaching the areas of our body that need them. And because of that, we feel more tired, right? It's harder to do simple everyday activities, like climbing a flight of stairs, carrying some groceries, doing things we would normally do. This tiredness often ends up being out of proportion to the activity itself. So, if before you could easily climb a flight of stairs and now you feel exhausted, that's something you should be concerned about. If nothing has changed, if you haven't had any recent illnesses or are recovering, if this happened out of nowhere, it could be a related cardiovascular problem. The second thing is swelling in the legs and feet. We know that the heart pumps blood, right? Actually, it's a muscle that pumps our blood to the extremities, to all the organs we need. But when this blood isn't being pumped efficiently because the muscle is weaker, it's as if it doesn't have the necessary strength to return. It ends up accumulating in the extremities. This fluid ends up leaking out and becomes more retained in the ankles, legs, and feet. And so, you often notice this when you press on your foot or leg and a deeper mark remains. We call this pitting edema. And many times it's a sign of venous congestion, a sign of circulatory deficiency, and it can also be related to heart problems. Another sign can be constant shortness of breath and a persistent cough. When we talk about lung issues, we usually think of the respiratory tract. But this can also be related to a buildup of fluid in the lungs caused by a heart that is no longer pumping blood properly. This dry cough, or cough with a pinkish froth, appears because this fluid starts to fill the alveoli, which interferes with gas exchange, oxygen and carbon dioxide, and causes what we call pulmonary edema, a serious complication of heart failure. The fourth sign can be rapid weight gain, and this may be related to fluid retention. So a sudden gain of 2 to 4 pounds in a single day, for example, is definitely related to swelling and not to fat, right? It's not due to the amount of food you ate at that time. That's why many doctors, cardiologists, ask heart patients to weigh themselves every day to monitor this, because it can also be a sign of a heart problem. Another sign is shortness of breath when lying down. If you need to sleep with an extra pillow, or if you feel shortness of breath when you lie down, this can be a typical sign of a weakened heart, because when we lie down, the blood from our legs returns to the chest, and the lungs become more congested. There are even people who wake up in the middle of the night out of breath. So this may be related to excess blood there, circulating, and it compromises the heart's ability to pump in that sense. Another thing is getting up several times at night to urinate, which is called nocturia. This can also be related to cardiac overload or to persistent swelling. So when we lie down, the blood from our legs, as I just mentioned, kind of returns to the circulation because everything is on the same level. So the blood flow to the kidneys increases. So if a person wakes up many times, 2, 3, 4 times a night to urinate, even without having drunk much water before bed, it can also be a sign of a cardiovascular problem. Mental confusion and difficulty understanding certain things can also be related to low blood flow to the brain. And this can be related to a reduced pumping capacity of the heart. Once again, the heart may not be strong enough to efficiently pump blood so that it reaches the extremities. The brain actually ends up being an extremity, and in fact, it is against the force of gravity. So in some more severe cases, in people with more compromised hearts, this symptom can also appear. Another problem can be very low blood pressure, dizziness, and fainting. If your heart is very weak and can't pump as it should, the blood may cause low blood pressure. This low pressure can lead to dizziness and in some cases even cause the person to faint. So all of this is very dangerous, and any kind of fainting can be related to a heart problem and should be investigated. Dilated neck veins can also be a symptom of venous congestion. When blood accumulates in these jugular veins, it may indicate that the heart is having difficulty pumping blood properly. And this is also a sign that should be investigated. Another sign is palpitations. That sensation that the heart is going to jump out of your throat, that feeling of being able to feel your heart in your chest or even outside your body, right? It could be a sign of arrhythmia, atrial fibrillation, and it's one of the main causes of heart failure and stroke. If you have palpitations, it's very important that you see a doctor. They might order a Holter monitor to assess how your heartbeat is doing, to monitor your heart rate throughout the day. Don't think it's nothing, okay? Remember to see a doctor and get the proper tests done. There are some things you can do in your daily life to improve your heart health. One of them is to keep your blood pressure under control. Keeping it below 120/80 will ensure good health for your heart and your arteries. Controlling your blood sugar is also very important for maintaining your circulatory health and your heart as well. Controlling blood fats, cholesterol, and triglycerides is very important. If you have a high amount of fat in your veins and arteries, it impairs blood flow and can worsen your heart health. Getting active is very important. Doing physical exercise, not being sedentary, being an active person. In your daily life, this will also help improve your heart. In addition, of course, avoiding smoking and reducing alcohol consumption also helps because both are quite toxic to our heart. So, reducing or eliminating these two toxic agents will benefit your heart health. Maintaining a healthy body weight will prevent overloading your cardiovascular system. And it's very important to get your checkups, check how your thyroid is doing, check your hormones. These also indirectly help your heart. And always talk to your doctor, okay? Have you noticed any of these signs or more than one? Write to me down below in the comments. I'd love to see your comment. Remember to like the video. It really helps me out, and share it with those who will enjoy it or who need it. Let's work together to expand this chain of good. That's what I want here with the channel. See you next time. Bye.